Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's your host, Griever, as always, bringing you guys the latest chapter, chapter 208 of And Sing It With Me, Yona of the Dawn. Yona of the Dawn, chapter 208. And I apologize for breaking all your eardrums. I also apologize, not just for my monotone singing, but also for the fact that this review is quite late. I'm really sorry about that, guys. This is going to be like 4 or 5 days late, and I'm really sorry about that. It was a very trying weekend. I've said this on now like 4 or 5 videos already recorded, so just sorry about that. I hope not to be so late with the next chapter. But thankfully, honestly, this chapter, other than one thing, nothing super interesting. It was a shorter chapter. It was only like 25 pages. And honestly, not really a whole lot happened because the first half is just dealing with the fact that, okay, so we have, what's her name? She gets her little hoe back, right? She gets the little one back and everything, and that's all nice and fine. And she realizes that Yona was the one because Hawk and apparently Jo-do is going to be the one to watch her. She tried to seduce him, did not really work out in her favor and stuff. And then we sort of see that she's very less mistress style. Like that wasn't her plan is sort of weak, honestly. Like everything that sort of transpired here seems sort of weak, I guess. I mean, it sort of makes sense, but really I was expecting something a little more profound. Because we sort of find out why she did what she did, why she went from being a general to being a mistress, and then acting all seductress and all that stuff, and playing the part as she puts it, and then she acts more like a tomboy, more like you would expect a female general would act. She wouldn't exactly be all prim and proper and wonderful. That doesn't really suit a general of an army that commands respect and has strength and power and stuff. So we do get that explanation, but it is funny that she tried to seduce Jo-do, but it's also funny that Hawk and Yon, I mean, they just pieced, and I guess everyone's fine with it. It felt a little quick to me. I don't know. I just expected to see more opposition to this entire idea. But anyways, and she also realizes, as I said before, that Yona and the dragon show up. They brought her the little hoe and stuff like that, and she sort of recognizes this is Princess Yona, and then it's like she was the one who found him. She's the one who took care of him and brought him back to me and stuff. So she does say thank you, which is really nice. Now, here's the other thing. So some of the armies are starting to arrive because they're going to do their war with Kai, right? They're going to do the war and blah, blah, blah. And so the dragons, Yona, and everybody is discussing it. That's when it's stated that, even if the Thunder Beast is away, our army we can take them. And so she basically says, are you guys stupid? And they're like, wait, what? And it's sort of like, well, South Kai's military force is more than twice the size. We have more troops. It's a 2-to-1 ratio at least. And we also have, we can also request, so this is sort of reminding me of the Korean War. It's sort of like South versus North Korea. And then all of a sudden it was like, yeah, we're going to push. But in the end, we can ask China for help. And in the end, it was sort of like, yeah, I'm going to step. And then people got too greedy. They stepped one foot into China. That might be the sort of thing they're going with here for Yona of the Dawn. Potentially, what if they beat South Kai? Maybe they'll think, hey, we can attack North Kai. And that's when North Kai comes and boom. And then they're back in Koka Kingdom. All South Kai that they conquered is now retaken, because that's what happened in Korea. So it sort of reminded me of that. It's like we can also request reinforcements from North Kai if need be. I imagine that's not an easy alliance, but it would happen. And basically says that they've amassed a lot of power over the years. He can do whatever it takes. And now, of course, Su-won, and she knows about it, and we all know about that Su-won is failing, and he might be getting a little desperate. His health is not the best. The Crimson Dragon illness, etc., etc. So there is, and as she points out, an army led by Su-won is afflicted with the Crimson Dragon illness, has very little future for any long-term campaign, and this will not be a decisive short war by any means. So it's really interesting because that's, as I said, that's when we find out that she's the former general, you know, and stuff like that. And if I just talk as a woman all the time, my troops would lose their morale and stuff. And this is where we get that personality and stuff. But everybody's shocked. The dragons are shocked. Jojo is shocked. Yona's shocked. Everybody's shocked. Like, you were a general, and then we see her flopping around, lazing around, talking uncouth and stuff like that. And that's sort of the idea. And here's a bit of the problem, right? Like, here's a bit of the problem here is that Yona questions it and said, why would you ever determine it? It's not like you went to wife or to mother or anything like that. That might have been more understandable, like if you did it for love or for children or something, but you became a chief mistress. Like, why? Why would you do that? Like, and that's what, like, Yona's sort of like, because she, of course, has a very tomboy, and now she used to be the prim and proper princess, but now she's sort of the battle-hardened princess. She can't really understand who would ever choose to go from general to mistress. And honestly, yeah, who would? Especially if you were already attaining the rank of general. Why would you ever want to, I guess, lower yourself in that way? But, as she says, and I just find this too simple, is that she thought that she could obtain more power and more prestige by being a chief mistress than a general. Which arguably, yes, because now she's more in the courts, where the military and the courts are usually separate. The political parties stay sort of away from the military. The military does its own thing, has its own hierarchy, but the generals are not ever really considered a part of the political inner circle, especially back in more medieval times and such, right? I mean, sometimes it's the opposite, but in other times not so much. And her whole plan was betting on the fact, I'm going to be the chief mistress. I'm going to give up my rank, my respect, my power, just for the off chance that I might be able to go to Hiryu Castle, to go to the Crimson Dragon Castle, might be able to meet the four dragons, which, by the way, remember how long it took, and everyone believed that they were a fable for the last... I mean, I know she's from the Dragon Clan and stuff, but remember that most citizens didn't even know of them. They've never been collected before since the time of Hiryu, by the sounds of it. And, you know, like, Zeno's been on the run. The clans, like, Shina was feared. Like, just all these other things that went down. Like, I mean, maybe she doesn't know that, but maybe she should have thought, like, this plan has so many holes in it. Because it's like, on the off chance that she ever goes to Koka Kingdom, which, why? Why would she ever do that? She has a better chance invading Koka Kingdom as a general than she does being sent there on an envoy of a failing kingdom. And then, once again, and then I might also be able to meet the four dragons. Like, Jesus, she had some high, like, she was rolling the dice. She put all her millions. She's a billionaire, and she put every cent on 23 black 5 times in a row landing. That's what she bet. Not once, not twice. Like, she rolled everything on a triple, quadruple, quintuple bet. And it's a very weak plan. It's really... The reason I don't like this is not that it makes sense that she wasn't desperate. She goes, I might be able to meet Su-won, who shares my blood. We might be able to understand each other and stuff. And she was sort of trying to... And we know how desperate she was. We know she suffers from the illness and all that stuff. And she realizes that she's done all this for nothing because, of course, Su-won rejected her. Yona's around, the dragons, all this stuff. So she realizes that it was all for nothing, which... She's a tougher woman than that, as we see. She sort of recognizes this, but she just goes, well, that sucks. All the blood and all the vomit and all the short lifespan is going to mean nothing in the end. I tried, though. That's her blasé attitude about it, but I really did not like how weak her plan was. It had zero basis, with very little chance of success. And as I said, she had a better shot coming there as a general, as a conqueror, rather than as an envoy. Why would she ever become an envoy? Like, it just so happened this shit happened. Like, what if Su-won had failed? What if Yona had said to Zeno and them, hey, I want my castle back, let's go. And Zeno said, we can do it. That was 100 chapters ago. What if that had all went down? Then none of this envoy shit with South Kai ever would have happened. She was betting on the fact that Su-won was a good king, for the country, was going to succeed in expanding everything, was going to fix stuff, and eventually there was going to be diplomats from South Kai involved. And eventually she would be able to be one of the people to go there. Like it's such a weak plan that I'm just like, she was a general. She should have a better, this is the move of a desperate person, which you could argue that she's desperate, but someone with literally nothing to lose. You could argue she doesn't have that either, but I just find it really weak because her plan sucks. It's an awful plan. And look, even on the off chance that it succeeded, which was like a 1% chance it actually went that way, she did meet the dragon, she did go to the castle, and guess what? It was nothing like she thought, and nothing like she wanted. So, realistically, she would have been better off staying a general and living out her life. I mean, at least that's the way I'm looking at it, but either way, yeah. So, so that being said, the second half of the chapter involves Zeno. And of course, you guys know I love Zeno. So this chapter was pretty good in the regard that we're talking about Zeno. But honestly, as I said, that part was sort of disappointing because I was like, that is such a plan with more plot holes than the Attack on Titan ending. So, I'm just sitting back going, it sort of took me out of the moment. But then the chapter redeems itself, even though it's short-lived. It's that we get Zeno. Zeno meets with Su-won, who is, of course, not looking so well. And actually, Zeno recognizes he was reminding him of, once again, King Hiryu. So that's sort of the shock that Zeno got when he first met Su-won. He's reminded of King Hiryu far more than with Yona, but more so with Su-won. The appearance, the raggedness, how the illness affected him. He's seeing the parallels, and it's sort of shocking for him. So pretty much, here's what Zeno gets right to the point, and Su-won also gets right to the point, and it basically says, are you interested in the throne? And I don't think a single fan of Yona thought that was going to be a question. That's ever going to be a possibility. Remember that Zeno he was the chief priest for the longest time and blah, 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 and he was involved for a long time as the one that was more important than the king itself. But he already went through that stuff. So I guess we never expected that Su-won would consider putting one of the dragons, the gods that he despises, that he wants to defy. Why would he ever decide, to put Zeno on the throne, right? So that just, his reasoning starts to make sense here in the rest of the chapter, but it was such a shocker. I was like, first off, good idea. But second off, from Su-won's perspective, I mean, it's a good idea. We know Zeno's going to say no, but from Su-won's perspective, a good choice for the throne. But really, really shocking. And even Zeno's taken back. Zeno's just like, what? So then he's like, so what it goes down to is are you interested in politics? I'm not. Are you interested, are you interested in being in the government? I'm not. And he's like, okay. So then he's just dumbfounded by Su-won. So he actually makes Zeno speechless. So that's pretty funny. And then Zeno's just like, what the hell are we talking about here? It's like, this is not the direction I thought. And Zeno's breaking the fourth wall right there. Just like, nobody's expecting this, Zeno. You're not alone. You are not alone here. But Zeno has a question for him, and I'm glad the way this conversation went, because even though we're not getting the Su-won Hawk talk yet that we're all craving, Zeno's Su-won talk is also if we have to have a runner-up talk, this is going to be a good talk, and it is, because he said, well, all right, Mr. King, what would you have done if I said I am interested in your throne? Which, by the way, we remember, Zeno could take it by force if he really wanted to. That's when Su-won says, well, we'd hurry up and give you a king's education. And he says, there's got to be more suitable people and stuff and all that stuff. And Zeno says, you have no other successors? He goes, I do. I have officials for the Sky Tribe. I have military officials. I have plenty of people that have been raised well enough. But according to Su-won, they lack a decisive factor. Someone not bound to the tribe with a wider field of vision. And I know what he means, because you pick someone from the water tribe, they're going to be more invested in the water tribe than any other tribe. Their needs are going to come first. Same with the fire tribe. We saw that very heavily with the fire tribe, and it's no different here in the sky tribe. The sky tribe is always going to come first. They're not going to think of Koka Kingdom as a whole. They're going to think of it as divided, where their tribe matters the most. They're the king's tribe. And Su-won is making an absolutely excellent point, because most, not all, but most people from these tribes would do that and do feel that way. And he said someone can retain a strong vitality and determination. Someone who can sit through all the bullshit and make everybody happy, make everyone work as best as possible. So he thought of Zeno, because Zeno also has the gift of not dying even if you kill him, which means that he'll be able to tough through everything, because he'll be on the throne no matter what. Now, this is where Zeno brings up an excellent point. I'm basically reading this because this conversation was so interesting, so I almost don't want to miss a thing, so I'm just reading it almost panel by panel here. But brings up the fact that Zeno's been alive for 2,000 years. The amount of knowledge he must have accumulated, the things he must have seen and done and traveled, and et cetera, he must have a lot of knowledge that he's not exactly putting forth. Hey, I'm better than this entire library right now. Because actually, all these books? Yeah, I was there. And by the way, I was also there before they were written. So, that kind of stuff. And that actually, when you think about it, someone with 2,000 years of knowledge of seeing the pros and cons, and can see the gray, can see the grass is always greener, proverb and all that stuff, can see it all as what Su-won wants, is someone who can look past and see the big picture, and realize that it might not even have borders, that the picture might just keep spanning like a huge landscape, never ending. That it's an excellent quality to have in a ruler, of course, and that's what he brings up, and that makes a lot of sense. But of course, Zeno said, sitting a guy on the throne who doesn't die won't do any good. And at first we don't really know what he means, but then Su-won mentions that your mind didn't break down after 2,000 years, you would be totally fine. And he said, but that's the thing, it has broken many, many times. And it's not something that, you can see the emotions in Zeno's eyes as he says that. It has broken many times. And we've seen parts of Zeno's past, but those are probably not the only bad memories in his life. He has had to suffer, his heart, his soul, his mind. He has broken down many times, and he was not always suited as he might be right now. And who knows what's going to happen later. When the dragons die again, when Yona dies, when Hawk dies, is Zeno still going to be able to carry on the throne? Maybe, maybe not. But now, after living as a wanderer, as a hermit, because he's been scared to make any real interactions with anybody until the day Yona was born, this is the thing, right? He has stayed that way because he knows what's going to happen in the end. In that regard, but maybe not, because the end of the chapter is very interesting, but and we're not really sure what it means. But that's where he just says, yeah, no, it's just not a good idea. And you can sort of see that. Plus the idea of an immortal king, eventually everyone will die and they won't appreciate you anymore, and then they'll start to get more jealous, and then they'll be like, you shouldn't be on the throne, you're a freak, there's so much other shit Zeno would have to deal with. So but Su-won does give up quite quickly and says, well, if you don't have any intention of doing it, then it's no good to try to force you. Which, at least Su-won realizes that, and that's when Zeno, doing the right thing. What about the young lass? What about the young miss? And I'm like, oh, Zeno gonna force Su-won's hand here. He's gonna force his hand, going like, sure, you don't like the people that are suited. You're trying to find someone better. I'm not better. And Zeno speaking for, I'm not better. But Yona, wait a minute. Yeah, and Zeno thinks that Yona's good for the job, apparently. Or maybe he's just feeling out Su-won's intentions. Says, is the young miss among your candidates that you've considered? And Su-won says, after hesitating, but then says no. And I don't buy it, and neither does Zeno. We see it in the shot. We see it the way the chapter is formulated. We see the way the page is formulated. Zeno doesn't buy that. You don't buy that. I don't buy that. Even Su-won knows he's lying to himself. He knows that Yona is probably the most suited of anyone left to carry on what he wants to accomplish. But now that he's done what he's done, there is potential for what Yona will and won't do for him, or what she will or won't do for the kingdom. Maybe it's not in line with his vision as much as he thinks. So it's hard to say, really. And then they bring up another topic, which is not necessarily as interesting. It says, you knew my mother, and which is something that Zeno did mention, like, you knew my mother. We didn't really just know each other, but he did stop in, just like we saw with him with the dragons. So this isn't really like a plot ass pull or anything like that. We have seen him with the dragons before, stopping by, checking on them for a second to see how the clans, the children, people like that are making out, sort of idea. And so it's no surprise that he also would go to the village and he would check out that kind of stuff. And he just said, I just happened to see her once and blah, blah, blah. And I know all about the village and stuff, so I knew what was happening. So this is where Su-won asks the real question. The only person who can answer, someone 2,000 years old and directly involved with this. Is there anyone, any descendants who recovered from the crimson illness? And Zeno just said there wasn't. And this right here is a shocker. This is a shocker right now, which I don't know if Zeno just doesn't believe it's possible, but this is depressing, because he says, I feel sorry, for the young lad, Yon, because not even the Senjuro can cure it. And Su-won goes, and Su-won's not shocked by this. Really? That's all it took? You think that we wouldn't have tried to find it by now? I mean, very rare as it is, but still. And sort of well, then why didn't you tell them? And he said, even if I had, it's not going to stop your personal physician or the young lad from continuing to try. And we know that from Zeno's personal experience. They're not going to stop trying. So, because he's seen it happen, he's been the one trying to make it happen. I'm still convinced that a combination of the Senjuro, the Senjuzo, whatever it's called, I think that there is going to be an actual cure. For some reason, I feel like some combination of what Yon's going to be able to do is going to be able to cure Su-won. Maybe not cure him, but prolong it, to maybe not fully fix it, but get rid of all the symptoms of it, or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but I just have this weird feeling. That seems too crushing. That seems too, okay, so there's no point in us following with this line. That means we shouldn't bother to even care or follow their storylines anymore. If they're ever, if we see Yon researching with Min-so, then it's not going to matter. None of it matters. Because Zeno says it's just not something, and he goes on to say, he actually goes on to continue to say that, is that your illness is the fate of the dragons, myself, except for myself. It consumes you, have a short lifespan. So, and this is news to Su-won, the white dragon and the rest of them, Kuja and jae-ha and all them, they're also going to have short lifespans, except they just don't suffer in that way anyways. And he just explains that it was a tit-for-tat exchange, the power of the dragons for the power, in the power of humans. And no matter how many times they're born, the price was just too high, and now the dragons constantly will always suffer. Same with the descendants of Hiryu, because of this thing. And what he's saying is there's nothing on earth, his mentality, which once again, I can see it both ways. I can see that being the potential here, and it could be the truth. I just always thought that somewhere along the way, Yon was going to discover something to help. I don't know what. But the problem is that Zeno is so factual about this, and his reasoning is so solid that even though I want it to be the case, like I said before, that Yona is going to figure something out, I don't think he will. Also because Zeno is so correct about this, where he just says, it was the work of the gods. It's magic. it's fate. Nothing on Earth is going to change that. The Crimson Dragon illness cannot be cured by earthly means. It's never going to happen because that's just not the way it works. And it's no different than the White Dragon Claw being born in Kija's birth line forever. It's always going to happen. There's no preventing it from happening. It's just always going to happen. So and no medicine can fix that. So it is very interesting in that regard. So he explains all about King Hiryu. And of course, Su-won doesn't like to hear this because it's annoying to him. He hates the fact that, he doesn't rely on the gods. He hates the idea of the Crimson Dragon. He hates the entire idea of the four dragons, in fact. But yeah, so he continues to think that he can't die yet. He wants to reach an ideal place. Not until I conquer the Kai Empire, make Koka Kingdom a strong country that won't be invaded by anyone. He loves this country so much. He wants to protect this country. So it's the most powerful country, so it can never be under threat of invasion ever again. So he's going to pull, as I said earlier in the chapter, he's going to pull a Korea. He's going to pull a Douglas MacArthur. He's going to conquer Korea, and it's not going to be good enough, and he's going to step his foot into China, and in this case, that's going to be North Kai, and that's going to be the worst mistake. I really think I'm seeing the parallels here, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen here, because Su-won wants to completely decimate it all. So this is where, of course, Su-won ends up, suffering from the illness again, and he tells him to sleep and stuff like that. He says, I don't have time, but, and he eventually, Zeno just tells him to sleep, like, go on, fall asleep and stuff, and Su-won tries to not do it, but it happens anyways. And Zeno says to himself, Zeno's very bitter, of course, about his 2,000 years on this earth. He even says, I have eternity in my hands, but things never have gone my way. One day my journey will end, though. This is the interesting part. He says, one day my journey will end, and even if it goes against the gods, my wish will be granted. Now, we don't know what this means. And the translation things say it's not technically Zeno's wish. That's not a proper translation, but there's no indication. It's something like the wish will be granted, but whose wish, right? So we're not really 100% sure on what he means by this. Of course, the translation could be off. He could have meant Su-won's wish, but apparently the translation doesn't really support that either. That we'll save Koka Kingdom sort of idea. But he does say that his journey will eventually end. So now this implies that Zeno knows more, even when we had his past arc and we learned everything about him. Clearly he found something out or discovered something, because he apparently sees an end to his journey. He knows that he's eventually going to die somehow. Why he thinks that, why he thinks it's going to happen soon, all these things into play, who the hell knows? But this clearly means that Zeno still has more information being kept from us, which, once again, I'm fine with, because Zeno is an extremely interesting character. He's one of my favorite characters in the series, and I just really like his character. And this chapter, once again, there was a ton to talk about, so this will still be a half-hour, 40-minute review, but that first half sort of bothered me because I found it almost boring and almost like, that was really basic and a dumb plan. Then we got the Zeno talk, and there was a lot to just take in because it was an unexpected talk, especially at this junction in the manga. I don't think anybody called this, especially Su-won going, hey, Zeno, you want the throne? Because we'll start that right now. And it's just like, whoa. Like, clearly Su-won's giving up. He thinks that he's suffering more and more from the illness. He's probably not going to live that much longer, and he's trying his hardest to live until he can conquer Kai and conquer this and conquer that, and then he can make Koka Kingdom the greatest place in the world, the place that can never be invaded, the home that will always be safe for the people. Not a bad goal. Naive goal, very difficult to achieve goal, but a good goal. And his methods certainly at times do not justify the means, as we all know. And actually, there is one other thing I wanted to mention, because I think I talked about everything in detail I wanted to talk about. What is the secret Zeno is hiding? What is this wish? What is, how does he know about the journey? How does he know about this, that, and the other thing? There's still mystery surrounding Zeno, and of course we're all curious. There's one other thing I want to mention, not necessarily in relation to the chapter, but there was one thing in the chapter on one page that I'm not sure what page it was on, but I wanted to say that I saw a Reddit post that someone said that they were they were starting to get upset in the Yona Reddit forums. They were starting to get upset that the translators are putting their own opinions in the sidebars and in the notes. And I remember seeing that a couple of times, but I guess it's been happening more frequently. Generally speaking, unless there's a word I don't understand, or if there's some sort of like, what does that mean? And it goes like the little asterisks to lead to the notes or whatever. Generally speaking, I don't read the sidebar notes, so I never noticed this before, but apparently they're putting heavy criticism on the translators, I guess, don't like Su-won, and they're constantly going like thumbs up when Su-won does like falls or something like that. Apparently there's a lot of hate for Su-won, which I understand. I like him for a character. He's a very compelling gray area sort of character. He's done atrocities. We know why, but as I said before, to the ends justify the means. That's a good gray argument, of course, for what's been happening in this entire story. So there's a lot of gray there, but if you don't like Su-won, or you don't think he's justified, or you think he deserves to die and stuff, that's fine. I've said many opinions about that before, but I did notice that that's exactly what happened here in this chapter. Something about the illness, when they were speaking about the illness with Zeno or something, he was saying basically like, yay, like let the illness freaking kill him, perfect, there is no cure, wonderful news, or something like that was said. And I was just like, yeah, you know what? Like, I know that the translators work very hard and they're doing a good job and stuff. But honestly, keep your opinions to yourself. You want to review the chapter like I do, go on YouTube, go on Reddit and stuff. But leave it out of the translations for all of us to read, because now you're putting your own spin. And the level, when it comes to that level of criticism, and I believe this Redditor actually brought up the fact that how do we know that some lines aren't being mistranslated at this point? Like, they're actually going to start doubting the integrity of the people translating when they're constantly seeing a certain level of bias from the translators on page to page. Like, I'm not talking about the notes page. They want to do something at the front or at the back on a notes page, that's different. But going in the sidebars between the panels and constantly giving your views and opinions on it, in my opinion, that's sort of unprofessional. It's lacking in integrity, and you just shouldn't do it. If I was a translator and I was translating the last chapter of Attack on Titan, do you think I would have written in the sidebar, what the fuck is this, constantly on every panel? No, because that's not my job. I'm a translator. It's not my job to review it right now or react to it. That's the job when you go afterwards. You want to be a translator, fine. And you want to review and react, fine. But they should be two separate things. So I just wanted to bring that up because I didn't notice it before, but I was sort of looking for it this time. And that one little instant, I was like, yeah, that is a little, like, I don't know. You want to say, oh, so cute when, like, Hawk and Yona have a moment or something? Sure, like little things, but when it's constant. And then I did go back and I did check, and there's actually been quite a few instances of them hating on Su-won very, very blatantly, and it's not just a simple little like thumbs down or a cute or something like that. They've actually been little sentences, and it's just like, okay, you've done it a few times, whatever, but now if you're going to do it every chapter that Su-won shows up in, there are people not liking it. So I just wanted to bring that up because I did see it. I agree with the Redditor who said, like, please stop doing that. It's not about, like, we don't like your translations, but how are we supposed to believe that you're not, like, biasly translating Su-won's lines? I mean, I don't read, the kanji or whatever it's in, so I wouldn't know the difference. I'm taking the word of the English translation, so there is that. Or I have to wait for the official volume release. So if other people are questioning it, just a word of advice in case the translator does watch my reviews or whatever, or the Redditor who posted that watches my reviews, then here's a shout out to you. You made an excellent argument and a good point. But yeah, so anyways, guys, I'm really sorry how late this review was. I know it's like a longer review, but I just wanted to bring up that little bit there at the end. I think that only took a few minutes to talk about, but it did intrigue me when I had the chance to go on the Reddit, and I did see that, and yeah. So anyways, guys, like, comment, subscribe as always. I'm looking forward to chapter 209. 208, as I said, a little shorter, very interesting later half. First half, not very interested in. I think, what's her name? Begins with an H or whatever. The general, the mistress, whatever. Honestly, I forgot her name because now I'm sort of done with her. I'm disinterested in her character. I think it sort of came full circle. Her plan failed. She's a prisoner of war. She got little Ho back. End of character. Don't really care. Maybe she'll turn into be an amazing character, but right now I'm so disinterested in her and more interested in our main cast again that, you know, Yona's back with the dragons. I want to see that. I want to see Hawk. I want to see, you know, more Zeno and Su-won talking, Jodo, all that stuff. I'm far more interested. So, but once again, I'm reviewing, so I can say that. But that being said, 209 looks pretty good. So, Let's see what it brings us, chapter 209. So, but chapter 208, as I said, pretty good chapter. The Zeno Su-won stuff was pretty good. So, like, comment, subscribe. We're getting to 600 subscribers here in this month of June. Once again, apologize that it was so late, but maybe if I had 600 subscribers next time, I would pull myself out of a migraine and I would review it for you guys nonetheless. So let's get to that 600 subscribers because I know you all wanted this review way faster than I produced it. So drink responsibly as always, and we will see you guys back here next time for chapter 209, which I will try my best to be right on time with that one next time. So thanks guys for watching. Peace out.